In my view, this is an issue where companies are just beginning to learn how to handle, and starting out with such a symbolic big act, I think is a very good move on the part of the companies.
This is systemic.
Right.
Now what happened here represents what happens everywhere.
Let's get more on this now with Carmen Morris in London. She's the Managing Director of Kenroi Consulting, which specialises in diversity and inclusion training for clients in the UK and around the world. Welcome to Money Talks, Carmen. As someone who specialises
Good afternoon,
in...
Oscar.
Our pleasure. Well, someone who specialises in this field, can you give us an idea of what sort of training and messages would the US employees at the Sephora stores have received during this day?
Possibly some unconscious bias training. They probably would have been given some training around belonging, around diversity and inclusion. One day is not enough. I think leadership has to be accountable for diversity and inclusion, and that cannot happen within one day's training. Certainly, one day's unconscious bias training does not give leadership nor staff the skills and abilities that are necessary to embed diversity and inclusion across an organizational framework.
Now, this incident that sparked this day of training for Sephora stores in the US, as we heard, was sparked by what SZA, the musician, said was racial profiling. How big a problem is this in your experience?
It is a very big problem. It's a problem within the US and also in the UK, London, the major cities, and the little towns and villages where Black and ethnic minority people reside. It's a problem because there are stereotypes around people who are different. These are very, very dangerous. It's in society, so it creeps into the workplace environment. And because of that, there's discrimination. There is a lack of understanding, not because people are unable to understand, but because of power relationships in organizations and a willingness to maintain the status quo within organizations.
Interesting. Now, Sephora's Day of Diversity training obviously follows Starbucks doing something similar. Why do you think companies are now trying to address this problem on a larger scale? What's prompted this?
Well, I don't know really that many companies, certainly some are, but I don't know really that many companies are trying to address it. I think the issue is that when things like this happen, there becomes an understanding of reputational risk. We live in a social media age where as soon as something happens, people are on their social media platforms on their mobile phones. The damage and loss of competitiveness because organizations do not take diversity and inclusion seriously is huge. Customers are beginning to make organizations, smaller ones and the large global ones, accountable for diversity and inclusion through social media. And the cost to companies for not getting it right is huge.
That's right. Now, do you see this problem getting better or worse?
I think there is some support across organizations and industries for embedding diversity and inclusion. I don't believe that we are there yet. I think that many companies will only act when there is an issue that will probably damage their reputation. I think there's a long way to go. I think piecemeal activities that pretend to support diversity and inclusion are all over the place. That needs to stop. Kenroi Consulting is an organization that looks at diversity and inclusion in relation to top-down understanding, accountability for inclusion holistically. A holistic, authentic approach is what we at Kenroi Consulting deliver for organizations to make them understand it, understand the ramifications, both across social media, across their industry, and in terms of talent management and talent attraction. We help them understand the ramifications of getting it wrong. The world is different now, and diversity and inclusion is something that is major. It is something that is important to business, and it is something that customers and clients will make organizations accountable for if they get it wrong, as in this case.
That's right. Carmen Morris in London, we do appreciate your time. Thank you.